So let's rehash what we were talking about. We're on this leadership team call, but we're really just talking about the Ambassador Month and the Ambassador Challenge leading up to the Journey course in November. Obviously, we've asked all of you, I've asked all of you, and I've asked everyone in the community to jump on board with these tasks that I've laid out for inviting people to the community and hopefully doing it in a very like step-by-step way to allow us to have conversations like this where maybe we're rubbing up against some worry or some concern or obstacles towards actually doing the tasks and coming across a certain way. You don't want to hurt relationships or I guess yeah, not know how to best approach something, and so you revert to not doing it. So what we want to do is allow us to have some conversation and empower you and give you some good ways to actually follow through on this. So week one's challenge is twofold. Number one, create a 1 to 3 minute video testimonial or a written post with a picture that is shared to us so that both we can post it next week and you can post it next week if you have any platform where you can share our post at least to accomplish that task. Jeff already made a suggestion that we'll implement, which is to use something called Senja. It's a way to collect testimonials just through a link. You upload it right there, comes right to us. We can use that, and then we'll give it back as a resource for you to post. So we'll implement that. And then number two is building this list of 20 people. I've set the number maybe pretty high. For someone like me that talks to a lot of people, I've got a lot of contacts in my phone. Um, I was able to kind of just go through all my contacts, maybe go through some Facebook friends and build a list of 67 people. Right now, we're just building a list, so we're not actually sending anything. Even next week, we're not sending anything, we're tagging people, kind of just like to warm them up to the concept of underground and introduce them to us as people, our hearts, and our mission behind it. And then in week three is when we would do actual personal invites. So messages, emails, phone call, whatever you need to feel comfortable. And we'll give you some resources to accomplish that. So that's kind of setting the stage. Um, Jeff and Joanna, if you want to kind of bring up some of your thoughts on this task or this month of being an ambassador and maybe some of the overarching concerns or hesitations coming up in your minds right away, we can talk that and maybe you'll relate on the other side of this call.
Jeff, I'll let you go first.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Joanna. First off, Amos, I just want to say thank you so much for kind of rehashing out what we're starting to discuss. And I think your explanation there also kind of helped a little bit when you're talking about that we're not trying to send out the invites this week. It's something where we're slowly building the list. To try and recapture what we were talking about in the previous call and the previous meeting is basically I was struggling to actually come up with 20 names. For a little bit of context for those of you that don't know, that aren't part of the regular meetings that we have going on, I've recently moved from Utah out to Wisconsin, and so there's been a big shift in my social change. There's been a big shift in just people I interact with. And so I was kind of mentioning to the rest of the leadership team here. It really feels like I don't even have 20 people that I talk to on a regular basis, 20 people to invite to this community. And so I think that was the big struggle. And Amos had some really great advice about just kind of throwing seeds, just throwing the message out there and kind of letting people pick it up and let them choose what they want to do. And I think for me, it really kind of came down to being a bit more analytical. And I kind of want to curate almost who do I want these relationships to be with? Who do I want to interact with on a regular basis? Who do I want to talk with and kind of build and loop into the fold of the underground community? And yes, I think kind of to Joanna's point of what she mentioned that maybe we get into a little bit here, there is some of that fear of, okay, I'm being associated with underground. What does that mean? What does that mean for me socially? What does that mean for me to be public and kind of share that? And also, to be completely honest, I've never really taken my faith public before, if that makes sense. So from the background that I grew up in Utah. I was the minority of the faith. I was the underdog, like Lutheran, nobody had any idea what it was. And so I've lived in a society growing up where you still kind of talk about faith. You kind of hide it under a basket. You have your faith, you live your faith, but you don't really go really public with it unless you want to be ostracized, unless you want to be kicked out, unless you don't want people to play with you. Uh, that was my reality growing up. And so I think it's something that I've internalized. And also just the dynamic of my family itself, personally, it was a whole slew of mixed faiths. So growing up, I had Mormon, I had Lutheran, I had Catholic. I have people that are very heavily active in the LGBTQ community. Like it's the whole gambit and rainbow. And so it's one of those things that we kind of all would acknowledge faith or acknowledge this under the surface, but we never publicly talk about. And so for me, taking the step to kind of go public to say, hey, yes, I'm a part of this, and I'm associating myself publicly in this way, especially in like a social or even like doing it online, is something that's definitely well out of the comfort zone. And so something that I'm kind of trying to work through as far as how do I navigate that, especially with the idea of potentially losing relationships with family and things like that, or how this transition will play out. So yeah, that's kind of some of the struggles that I've been working through. I know it's not going to be solved in a day, but I think that kind of going forward, it's really just kind of me, at least what I want to hopefully do and kind of make a commitment to here in this call is I'd like to kind of publicly curate my list, so to speak, in underground a little bit. And so just kind of write out who are these people that I'm wanting to invite? Why do I want to invite them? What's the reasoning behind it? Um, and so that's kind of where I'm at. And hopefully that resonates with you. Um, I hope that helps. So I'll send that back over to the rest of the team.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Joanna, do you want to layer on anything? You kind of spoke a little bit of some of your thoughts, but you had a unique viewpoint as well. And then we can maybe dig in a little bit to some of these. You gave a lot more this time than just in our brief conversation before. So I'd like to kind of piece through some of these.
Yeah, well, to be fair, we kept cutting off Jeff in the last call. So this is good for us to give him a full space. I echo a lot of that, though, having also recently moved and seeing my entire social life just shift dramatically from who's here in person, but they're all new people to me. And then all the people that I quote unquote left behind, but we're still connected, and just reevaluating all those relationships. And honestly, this gave me an opportunity to actually put that to words. I don't honestly think I had really thought much about that until recently. So that's been valuable. And I am very much a slow burn kind of person. I don't like we have in our launch team, or we did, a guy who like he'll just talk to anyone, and like his faith is just out there, and like that's the first thing he's going to talk about with people. And I'm like, that's very different than I am. And I gosh, I admire that, but I also know it's personality driven. Like he just has the kind of personality where just the dude's energetic. I am just a quieter, more thoughtful. Like I like to listen to people more than talk to people. That's my comfort zone. And so then when I proactively reach out to anyone, that feels a lot more, I feel a lot more exposed and outside of my comfort zone, which can be challenging. And one thing I shared in the call before is just the extra layer for me. And I think other people feel this to some degree, just the way that social media goes. Being a female, and especially being a pastor's wife, we've kind of been targeted. That's maybe too violent of a word, but like targeted as prospects for the multi-level marketing and the products and selling those things. And so I am very used to cold calls, in a sense, these Facebook messages from people that I know to various degrees, very small degrees, that they reach out with the hey girl, and I know exactly what it's going to be. It's the same script every time. And that's not for me. I mean, that's for other people. That's fine. But I also know there's a large group of people like me that just instantly gets turned off by that. And so what I'm wrestling with right now in terms of not just who I want to reach out to, but also how I want to reach out to them is how do I stave off that vibe? 'Cause that's really what it is, just a vibe. And I don't know if all it takes is just put a big old title like this is not an MLM. I don't know if that's what it has to take, but I know that that is a struggle for me because I can feel the discomfort being on the receiving end. And I don't know how to separate myself from that feeling and how to separate my message from that type of messaging. And so that's been a struggle. And I mean, truthfully, it's just been a frustration of mine in general that like I don't like feeling targeted, but that's kind of what we're doing, but it's different here and it's for a good reason. And I will share this. This is just a little aside, maybe a little, you guys can rejoice with me. It's been on my mind that I don't talk about this enough. It's the most important thing in my life, and I don't talk about it enough with the most important people in my life. And just yesterday, I was on the phone with my forever friend, and I finally brought it up. Like we've kind of danced around it from time to time, and I have a sense of where she's at with her faith, and it might just be a little bit different than where I'm at. And I've been fearful about what that might bring up. And finally, yesterday, like we were both, we could both hear the shakiness in each other's voices as we were talking, but we've got that kind of friendship where we're going to be fine. It's just, these are hard conversations to have, but it was a very good conversation. It was very encouraging for me just to know that, yes, I can bring this up even to people I care about the most, because those are the relationships that you don't want to rock the most. Sometimes it is just easier doing a cold call on someone you don't really have a relationship with, I suppose. But yeah, that's a lot of what's been on my mind. So feel free, everyone, to unpack that with me.
Amos, can I make a quick comment? I don't know how this will.
Oh yeah, I was talking and I was muted, so go ahead.
So first off, Joanna, congratulations on having that hard conversation. I know how hard that is to have. And speaking from some real life regret, I know what it's like to lose that opportunity to not be able to do that. So, yeah, I just want to say congratulations. I know it was tough, and I hope that that blossoms into something even more. And I totally understand where you're coming from with your message. So thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah, this is really good. I tried to take some notes, and I'm going to spend more time actually writing up a more thorough response, or maybe making another video probably on this, because there's so much that we could talk about when it comes to these realities of sales and reach outs and associations and being public, doing one-on-one asks of people. There's just a lot of things that have happened to different people and the way the world is. So let's just maybe go one by one and at least get a couple major points and allow any of you to have some comments too on top of it. So one thing I mentioned before was the sowing seed mentality. So to your point, Jeff, about really trying to consider analytically who would I actually want to have a deeper relationship with? Who might I have a deep relationship with that I'd like to invite to this? How many people do I actually talk to on a regular basis? It kind of narrows a number. And I even said I maybe have like 2 or 3 people that would maybe qualify for all of your questions myself. And I'm more outgoing. I've got a lot of connections. And what I offered up as a shift in perspective, at least as far as how I went about it, is I have this phone and I've got all these contacts. I went through all my contacts from family, friends, acquaintances, people that I maybe even met just one time. So all the way from, yeah, we went to high school together and we lived in the same dorm for 3 years, all the way to I met this guy once because he was traveling through the co-working space and he seemed really passionate about Christianity, or he seemed like he was seeking something, and I just got his number because I just get people's numbers. So the whole spectrum was fair game for me to just write down on a list. So again, week 1, just writing a list, not actually reaching out to anyone as we kind of work through the process here. So sowing the seed, where I go, or how I was able to get a list of 67 people just going through my contacts is um, who is a person in here that has even a little bit of interest in things that matter and maybe their spiritual life or faith, about the future of their family. We've had at least one solid conversation about spiritual things or things that matter. That person makes my list because that's what we're trying to do in Underground is give people a space to talk about things that matter. Um, and then I give them the power to choose, what they do with that information. My job is as an ambassador is to speak about something else. It's not to try to make money or try to get something out of it myself. It's this could be beneficial for them. I'm gonna at least put it out there because otherwise they might not ever know about it. That's my only role in the matter, um, in this reach out phase. So I sow the seed, let them choose if they want to learn more. They can ask me, they can research it, they can see where our hearts are by digging in for just a minute or two. And then I totally give God the power to grow the seed. If he uses that, then fantastic. Um, Also going into then like who am I close to? The flip of that is also what I would encourage is Underground's an opportunity to get close to people in a way that matters. It's to get close to my friend Taylor in South America that I mentioned that I only knew for a little bit. He lived here for about a year or two. Met him through my work, and then he moved away. And he likes my LinkedIn posts every once in a while, but it's really hard to stay connected. Like we're not texting each other, calling. Um, but he really cared about learning more about the Bible. And so I need to invite him because this is a way for Taylor and I to actually become close Christians on this journey to heaven and encourage each other, even across the world. I think of Gustav, my friend from Sweden that Titus knows, family friend. That's a way for me to interact with him. And he's in a country where he does not have access to Christians every single day. Um, there's 250 people in their entire synod church body over there. So that's someone that needs to know about this. And then going off that too, will you ever have a conversation with these people that you used to know 5 years ago, or you haven't seen in 10 years, or you met just that one time? If you don't reach out to them about this, something that's so core to all of us that it's our foundation, faith and our faith life as we work towards heaven or go towards heaven, would you ever have a conversation with them? Would you ever reach out to them otherwise? Probably not. Like if there's one thing that you would reach out to this random person that you met 10 years ago, this would probably be it. And so I'm just going to take that opportunity and maybe 2 years down the road, they end up joining and you end up meeting them at an in-person event. Like you never know. But you know what happens when you do nothing. Nothing is nothing. Something is something for God to do something with. So who could I be close to is really, just a really exciting thought. I think you probably wouldn't have picked Beth and Dan Springer and Andrew Bender. God brought those conversations here, or those people here. So, do you want me to keep going to the next one? If you have any thoughts, keep rolling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, I can chime in for a second, Amos, just to have a different voice, give you a break for 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
I think when I think about this too, and this has been from the very beginning, like the first time I talked to you guys about this, what made it easier is if I believed in it. And like, obviously you guys have helped me believe in Underground having value. If anything, it's been really, really rewarding to see, but it was expressing the need. Like I need a place to be encouraged. I need a positive peer pressure group around me that wants to grow in their faith and is not satisfied with just church on Sunday or just satisfied on giving lip service to being a Christian, but then not actively thinking about that daily. Like I want people around me that do that, that encourage that, or that are excited about that versus the normal peer pressure group around you, which is like, we don't talk about that. So it is kind of fighting against the comfort that we do have and not making it a bigger part of our life. And I'm not okay with that. Like, I don't want that to be normal in my life. I want it to become a bigger part. I feel like tapping into some of the Christians of old, and even just looking at some of these stories, like, not everybody was crazy vocal about their faith, but there were always some. And I want to be part of that some. I want to help raise up some more that are passionate about their faith and want to talk about it more. So I think that why, like, talking about that and then seeing it resonate in your eyes, and now we have a group of people around, it resonates in them. They want that too. They feel that. That's exciting. And so as I'm working on this list, I'm thinking about that too. Like, not saying it's not important to reach out to as many as possible, but on the other side of it, it's like I can see in certain people like that longing to be more active in their faith, that longing to have a group around them that is going to encourage them to do that versus the other group in their life that's going to encourage them not to. And so I want to at least send out that invite and say, like, hey, you know, there's a place, there's a group of people that this is what they're all about. And you can come in, start small or start big, but you'll have this positive peer pressure around you that will generally help you think about this more. And isn't that important? Isn't that something that you need to bring into your life and your daily existence so that you grow closer to your Savior instead of farther away? You don't have to do that alone. This is a great place to be.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point that I should talk about for a second here. So for me, in this scenario, I'm like, okay, I've got 67 names that I want to invite. That doesn't mean that I'm gonna be like curating every single message to those 67 people, because it is a lot more. So 20 is a bigger number, but it allows you enough flexibility to make it more personal. So it doesn't have to be a super large number. And then in week 4 is a follow-up with the people that you've invited. So that might give you even another opportunity to, let's say 4 people out of 20 are like, tell me more. Like, what do you, I want to learn a little bit more before I sign on to this thing and join. Those 4 people might then get the very specific attention that Titus just talked about, where you're going back and forth. Maybe you jump on the phone and you actually just talk about real things, talk about their faith and their current life, and you've now given yourself an opportunity to have 4 really deep conversations with people that actually are feeling this way that you never would have known otherwise because of that first message. And that can be pretty special. Whether they join or not, that's a really valuable experience for both of you, even if you haven't talked in 6 years or don't live anywhere near each other. Going to your point, Jeff, about your upbringing and not really being vocal about your faith, and almost out of necessity or out of safety, of having friends to be around and not being shunned out of your community. That's a real feeling, especially as a kid. Now, as an adult, you have an opportunity to kind of stand and speak for what you stand for. I think I would give you the picture of, imagine an illegal immigrant inside of the United States and their life compared to a fully fledged person who's become a citizen, who has got citizenship in America and is so proud and happy. The anxiety is gone, the hiding is gone, the fear of the government, just total relief to be a part of this beautiful country and have opportunity. So on the one side, it seem, I think this is a pretty like stark way to contrast. Like, we are citizens, we've been adopted as children, we are now citizens of God's kingdom, and we have the opportunity to make that, or be vocal about that, make that public, and explain what that means to us and how proud we are and how it's changed our lives and our view and our perspective, in the same way that an illegal immigrant becoming a citizen would have that drastic shift in their heart and their day-to-day life. Is that helpful at all? That's just the image that came to my mind about someone in America being an illegal immigrant and just fearing every single day for being found out, versus being a citizen.
Yeah, I think that stark that stark image definitely does help. Yeah, I I don't know where else to go with that other than yes, it does resonate and it does make sense. And I kind of do see that, especially going from the perspective of faith and from the perspective of being a citizen in God's family and in his faith, um, being able to be bold. And I think kind of to tie in some of what Joanna was saying earlier, I think it's more like flavors of faith. So it's kind of like Baskin Robbins here, where you have some people that are hot and spicy and they're ready to go and they just have what they want and they're very bold and very open with it. And maybe it's something where it's like a smooth hit, where it's very, very smooth to begin with. You don't really taste it, you don't really know it's there. But then as the flavor slowly develops, then you can kind of get hit with it in there. And I think that's kind of going back to the personality and ideas here is that once I get over the fear and once I move forward with that, and I mean, this right here, this discussion is part of that. That's something that I can kind of develop into. And then personally, I also think too, there's something to be said for like the communication style and the medium and the message. So where we're putting that announcement and kind of how that announcement's being placed, you know, saying something across like spanning across Facebook or a social media account, that's a very public, very open place versus having a couple one-on-one conversations with your pastor or your friend or someone that you know, or starting that text conversation. And so I think that's for me is more, I'll gravitate more towards like that personal one-on-one connection, just because that's just how I'm wired. Like I like the really, really deep relationships. I um like the one-on-one getting to know people a little bit more. And so that's just kind of naturally where I fall along that line. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I would agree that the very small majority of us are going to be just like these public spokespeople like Charlie Kirk, where we're giving ourselves a platform and we're using that platform every single day or week to tell people that we're a Christian and here's why we're a Christian, and you're the first one to bring it up all the time. Versus, I think just yesterday in a referral group that I went to, part of two of them, and everyone knows, you know, I'm a Christian where I stand. I wear a cross as just a simple way to make that clear right away. I don't say anything, but I wear a cross. A lot of underground stuff, there's a cross on the shirt. But in this referral group, one of the questions that they ask the presenter every time is, what does success mean to you? And being a citizen of God's kingdom and having eternal perspective, that changes how you answer that question. And there's no way to separate your character and your beliefs in a public setting to like hide that I'm an illegal immigrant here. And you just like you answer it very clearly, very confidently, and from the heart and from your faith. That, well, success looks like this. And the guy next to me, I'm going to see him today at a Bible study. Actually, he's a business owner in town, and the other question that they ask a random question every time. So, what's your favorite winter activity? And he stands up and he says, the fact that I get to celebrate the greatest day and story of our lives, that Jesus Christ came and died, or Jesus Christ came into this world. And I get to celebrate that every single year. So that's what he says in front of 40 business owners. And he's just so he's a little different where he'll bring it up that way. But for someone who's asked, like, what does success mean to you? Man, there's no way to split hairs. You can tell who this person is with how they talk about life. And they're almost always talking about things that matter. So in that way, I think you'll have a big ripple effect. It's not hiding, it's not being overly vocal. It's shining as a lamp. Like you're just a lamp, you know, and you're not putting it under anything. So
one thing I want to say in response to that too, and especially to speak to Jeff, like for those who naturally are more introverted, and I am, even though I am in a job where I'm publicly professing the faith, I do that inside of a context that it's expected. Like on a Sunday, people expect me to talk about Jesus, right? That's normal. But if I'm in the bar on a Wednesday, it's a different, like it takes a different part of me to step outside of where I could hide. It's not expected for me to say anything. If I'm sitting on a table in the corner, no one's expecting me to make a bold profession of my faith. And if I do, they're probably upset, you know? So it's like a different dynamic. And now, like the last couple of years, it's shifting in me where I'm finally in that setting. Oh, I'm ready. Like I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm excited to just make simple statements that, like Amos just said, show very clearly what's most important to me. And you can make fun of me all you want. I will continue to speak exactly that way. That's just started to shift in me in the last couple of years. And I'm 10 years into the ministry. So like I do think that's part of Christian maturity is you do grow up into that. You have to really internally like, what is it that matters most to me? And if I am labeled a Jesus freak, if I am labeled as a Christian in a negative way in their mind, am I okay with that? And even a step beyond that, is it worth it? Because then they know someday down the road that they can come talk to me when they have a crux of struggle or challenge. And like more and more, I am like I know that's who I want to be. I mean, that's one of my values. I want that. That's what people think of when they think of me. That's what they think of when they think of Underground. And so I love Underground personally because it forces me into what I want to be. There was a thing I did last year with Rise of Kings, and one of the things they asked there is like, again, like, yeah, what do you feel God's calling you to be? And it's gonna sound arrogant, but this is not what it was meant to be. But I was like, I feel like God is calling me to be a general in the kingdom, which means I have to stand firm. I have to lead and I have to be an example. And I say that because that's what I want to be. I want to be that with my imperfections, with my struggles. I want to stand bold to inspire others to do the same. And I think Underground's one way that I get to do that. And I want others to come along for that. So anyway, I just wanted to share that like it's been a process for me to be able to do that in the face of fear. But I love that it's become more normal. And I've gotten used to that and it kind of embraced that feeling. And so it's made it easier to do that now. Speaking literally of the bar, like last week, someone, saw the cross on my chest from one of my Underground things and right away just asked like where I was from. And I was like, where in the past I would have been a little more leery to tell people right away that I'm a pastor. And I've shifted on that. Now it's just like, yeah, I'm a pastor at the church right up the hill. And I'm like, oh, no way. I was homeless for 6 months of the last year. I mean, not nice, but thanks for sharing that. And he's the guy serving me on the other side. And he's like, I'm a blood-bought child of God. I love God so much. That's really cool. You're a pastor. And I don't have a place where I'm at. But, he just starts telling me a story. And I was like, I wouldn't have put myself in that position because I wouldn't have just as quickly have stated this is who I am. Anyway, it was just an example.
Titus, you can check the box off for your testimonial now because that was a pretty darn good one.
Yeah, and that's so good. And it's hard to really bring it into a short statement like this, but when you just look at a rock star, someone that has access to everything, every friend, every dollar, like millions of dollars, millions of friends and followers, and all the experiences they could ever want in life, usually leads down to a spiral if they don't have a firm foundation. And they would take none of that and having a couple close friends and a strong faith and a strong conviction over having everything after experiencing it and realizing that it's vapor on the other side. So what you'll find is, as opposed like fearing about what you could lose as far as relationships or a perception of who you are, pales in comparison to what you will gain in this life and the next, from enjoying your faith, enjoying your relationship with God, enjoying your relationship with your fellow Christians in simple ways and with one or two people versus 50. There's really no comparison after you've experienced both. So encourage you to enjoy that. Enjoy what God can give you through this. And then just the last point here, your concern, Joanna, and probably some others too, about feeling scammy or spamming or MLMs and people being targeted for who they are, and then the message seems like they're trying to come across as I actually care about you, but I actually just want you to do it. I actually just want to manipulate you to make money or do what I want you to do. I think Underground's built in a way, and we'll maybe go through some resources or ways to reach out. But do it, first of all, like do it in a way that's comfortable with you, that you can actually come across the way you want to come across and it feels personal. But number two, Underground is built in a way that once people experience it or they just look at our resources, it should be very clear the heart and the mission behind it. And the fact that we're inviting them to an online community of Christians to go deeper in their faith, have conversations between Sundays with people that want to move forward in Christian maturity and love for others and usefulness in God's kingdom. The model is just different, where we're not asking them to build it with us. We're not asking them to become a coach or to sell something. We're just asking them if having a community of people like them would be useful to them at a time at a time in their life presently. So I think you'll find that it's a little different as far as what we're offering and how it comes across, but hopefully that's quickly helpful. But
Yeah, I mean, I know that the substance is there. I think I'm just shying away from even giving them a sense of it. I mean, I know that's just probably going to be part of the territory, but that's just how it is out there in the world anyway. Like anything can seem like a pitch. And if you can just get over that first hurdle, like we all have our defenses up. I do too. And I can probably just acknowledge that as a reality and not worry too much about it, because it's just only like that first little spark of an impression. And then once you keep talking and if you say it the right way. And I even pulled this up from the conference that we were at not too long ago, that I always have to remind myself of this. And we've been talking about this a lot with the church that we're trying to build and some of the fears about just inviting people to church, like people that you've known for a while. But there were these stats that were put out that, like, I would have never guessed this, but this is like the unchurched view of Christians. So people who responded to the statement. So here's the first statement: I have at least one close friend who is Christian, and 89% of people agreed with that. So like, it's not a weird thing to know a Christian. And then the second one, which was shocking to me, here's the statement: I would enjoy an honest conversation about religious beliefs. And 78% of people agreed with that statement. And in fact, like the age group we all tend to be most worried about, the younger age group, 18 to 29-year-olds, 89% of them agreed. And I don't know, like I see stats like that and I think, oh, okay, it's not as bad as I am afraid it would be. Like people actually do want to have these conversations. And the whole point of this community is that it is just an honest, raw, authentic place. And that's, I think, what people are thinking of when they respond that way. Like they want to have an honest conversation about religion and faith, whether they have one or not. So I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there because I know that always is a good reminder for me. And I think it's probably shocking to people, but it's good to have the data.
yeah, it's amazing to have real numbers behind it. Thank you for sharing that. We have an awesome community, an awesome opportunity, and I'm excited for the rest of this month as we work through some of this. Thanks for doing it here. First and foremost, wasn't expecting it, but obviously necessary to start talking through what an ambassador can look like and what being strong in your faith and prepared to answer for the hope that you have every chance you get. You don't shy away from it. We're not ashamed of it. Reading through again, I just did a post on Facebook actually that shows that I'm a Christian. I do it sometimes more proactively, but do it in a very calming way. Like I don't challenge people in it. I give people something to think about. So I posted about the sower sowing the seed the parable. And I just said, I'm curious to see this parable in reality in America, especially after the wake of Charlie Kirk's death. Because I see America and I see a very thorny ground, because the way he describes it is these thorns are worries, pleasures, and the pursuits of the world, or something like that. And it's thorny and it chokes up the faith. So that's just something I want to assess in myself. And I think we have the opportunity to create fertile soil in different little pockets where the thorniness is brought to attention, pulled out, and uprooted in our lives. And that's what we'll be doing next month too, in November. It's kind of pointing out and figuring out these thorns and uprooting them to create more soil, and then inviting people to kind of plant their seeds in the fertile soil that we're trying to till. So, well, that's where I'll end it. If anyone has anything else to say, I have to go to that Bible study group. I meet some business owners that do Bible study every week, and I'm excited to meet them and get to know them and encourage them. More opportunities. So appreciate all of you.
I think you said it well. Thank you, Amos. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.